Big news! Wayfair's President's Day clearance is on now, and you can score tons of huge deals. Like Wayfair's best deals since Black Friday. Right now through February 16th, you can score up to 70% off everything home at Wayfair. Like up to 50% off mattresses with fast and easy shipping straight to your door. Plus amazing flash deals on President's Day. Shop Wayfair's President's Day clearance now through February 16th.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Welcome to Under One Roof MTL, where we demystify home ownership 1 week at a time. My name is Robin Flynn, joined as always by Martin Spalding of Fred and Martin Mortgages. Good afternoon, Martin.
Hey, Robin.
And also joined by LJ Aguinaga of LJ Realties. LJ's the real winner because he was rooting for Bad Bunny last week, and I think Bad Bunny was the winner of the Super Bowl.
What a dud. I didn't think I was going to be watching field goals the entire evening.
Oh, I thought you meant Bad Bunny. I was like, that was the first.
No, I'm talking about the game. It was like, God, man.
Halftime was incredible.
And there were so many messages in his performance, too.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Loved it.
Honestly, I thought it was an absolutely fantastic performance. And like you said, a lot of symbolism, a lot of great meaning, and really just a lot of unity. And for the people who were able to understand what was in there, just believing in yourself was a nice underlying message. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then even if you didn't understand the music, my Spanish isn't the greatest, but I just loved it. It was so much fun. Love seeing Ricky Martin, Jessica Alba, Pedro Pascal. All the cameos were amazing. So
Lady Gaga.
Lady Gaga. Forgot about Gaga. So good. Okay, let's get to our trivia question of the week, brought to you by Felix and Norton Cookies. You can visit their store at the Blue Haven Shopping Center, 3705 St. John's Boulevard in DDO. The first person to text in the correct response to 514-790-0800 is going to get cookies from Felix and Norton delivered straight to their door. Our question this week, what type of mortgage has an interest rate that can change over time? If Fred were here, he would call me out on making a question that was way too easy. But if you think you know it, 514-790-0800, and please include your name. What is in the news this week? LJ, the January numbers are out. So let's do a little Montreal real estate market update.
Fantastic. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. It's kind of interesting to analyze. So when I take a look at it at the greater Montreal area, if we look at single family homes, we see that sales are down. Average days on market is also down, and prices are up, but active listings is up. So we have more listings, less sales, but prices are going up, which is it's not exactly what you would expect to see on that front. If we move over to condos, we're seeing the same thing. Sales are down 18% compared to January 2025, but median price and average active listings is also both up. And then if we move over to plexes, same idea. Sales is actually up in this category, so this one makes a little bit more sense. We got sales that are up 7%, median price that's up 8%, with active listings also being up. So we're seeing a lot more volume entering the market, and this is part of the conversation that we've been having with clients, and even clients are calling us, people who are regularly on Centris, keeping a pulse on the market. They're saying, LJ, there's so much inventory. What's going on? But prices are going up. The good inventory is still moving. We're seeing things trend in the right direction. So if you've got a solid property that's in good condition, that's move-in ready, that's in a good area and priced right, you're going to get paid for it right now. So that's the reality. And if you got property that's sitting because it's not ready to go, it needs a lot of work, it's not showing well, and you've overpriced it, that's going to start piling up, and that inventory is going to start adding together. So it'll be interesting to see if we stay in the seller's market that we've been, or if we start to transition into a balanced market. Only time will tell.
How long are houses sitting on the market right now?
The average days on market for single family homes in January was 50 days, condos 67, and multiplex is 66.
Okay, so roughly 2 months.
There was a sentence, though, in the article that we're basing our conversation on this morning. It said shortage of available properties and limiting purchasing power for some buyers. So I'm actually surprised that you're talking about an increase in inventory when the actual article said there's a shortage of available properties. Is it the shortage of the right kinds of properties?
That always plays a role in trying to understand what's right for you, what's right for me, and what we're actually looking for. But what we've noticed right now specifically, we've got one listing in the West Island, and it has a couple of repairs that could be done to it, small upgrades, really nothing. Buyers are very much set on it's not turnkey right now. That's been the overwhelming feedback. We've had, I think, 25 visits to the property so far. And even though there's probably only, I don't know, let's say $5,000 worth of repairs in terms of patching this up, cleaning that up, buyers are like, ooh, it's not turnkey for us right now. We're going to keep our search going. So they're shifting into that power position right now. Whereas other properties, again, if we reduce the price significantly, we move a lot quicker. Or if you don't have those rebuttals because of a bit of work, those are moving quite quickly as well.
So with prices rising despite lower sales in January, how are you advising both buyers and sellers to that are entering the market, either putting the properties for sale or starting the search for a new property?
It's always been the same advice. If you're a seller, we're looking at what we think fair market value is, and we're anchoring on that. For the last 5 years, if you overprice a property, you are sitting on the sidelines. And specifically since COVID, people have lost the almost the negotiation bug or the negotiation muscle, and people are a bit standoffish in the sense that, oh, that they're asking too much. I'm not going to try and lowball them. I'll wait to see if they reduce their price to be closer to what I'm willing to pay. I don't want to insult anybody. That's been the premise that a lot of people are going with right now. And historically, it was like, you know what, I'll offer a price, and if we get it, we get it. And if we're willing to meet, fantastic, and no hard feelings. But people are not of that impression right now. So I'm really bringing them back to, because people generally say, hey, I'm going to price it a little bit higher because I want to have that negotiation margin. And we have to forget about that negotiation margin. We got to be right at the fair market value. That's where the market's going to react. That's where people are going to feel the pressure. That's where people are actually going to be willing to make a deal happen quickly. And that's where, as a seller, you're going to get paid because there's going to be that fear of missing out on this property. That's got to be the strategy on that front. As a buyer, well, we're seeing inventory come in, but when we find the right property, when you get that nice, warm, fuzzy feeling inside, that's when you know you have to make a deal. That's when you know you have to move on this property and move quickly. So, doing your research beforehand, understanding what your needs are versus your wants, going to see different properties that you're not sure if they're the one, but let's go see them so I can really take stock as to what's available, what the different price points are, what we can get in different neighborhoods with maybe different amenities. And then when we do find that right one, we're ready to strike quickly because we know we've seen what's out there, we know what's available, and this makes sense for us.
LJ, I got another question for you. So we talked about days on market. How many days should you leave a property listed before you say, okay, it's not going anywhere? I should do a price adjustment, or I should take it off the market. What's that threshold that you tolerate before you go, guys? There's an issue with either how it's priced, how we're presenting it. We need to take action because we want to sell this place. It's not going to sell the way it's being listed currently.
I think those are two very different dates. So, in terms of a price reduction, I it generally depends on two factors. Usually, at a month's time, we have to have a price discussion, what we're doing on there, and that discussion is be based on the amount of visits that we've had and what the feedback's been. If we're having about one visit a week, maybe two visits a week, we're not getting enough motion on this property right now. Price is not where it needs to be. After 4 weeks or a month at this point, the market is telling us something is not right. If we are getting a significant amount of visits, so three plus a week, four visits a week, and we haven't received an offer after a month, the market's telling us the same thing. We're not where we need to be in terms of price, or there's some repair that needs to be done, or there's something that's underlying that's impeding people from moving forward on the property. In terms of talking about now, the home is just not ready to be sold right now, that really ends up being more so a question of either there's an important piece of work that needs to be done that's really putting buyers off that people don't want to transact on, or the seller's expectations are unrealistic because it all comes down to price. At the right price, everything's going to move. Now, what we see happen a lot of times is that sellers have told themselves, okay, well, I want to sell for, let's say, $750,000 because after commissions, mortgage payoff, mortgage radiation, all these kinds of things, that'll leave me with $400,000. With those $400,000, I have already planned to give my son $100,000, my daughter $100,000, and that'll leave me $200 to make my next purchase and get ready for life. So people have usually already spent the money, quote unquote, and they have to maintain what they're planning on spending on right now in order to make things happen. And that's where they're limiting themselves in terms of price and not listening to where the market's actually at.
So you shouldn't plan to spend your house until you know how much it's going to sell for.
100%.
Funny you bring that up because now we're getting a lot of people that are permitting themselves to make offers and getting an accepted offer conditional on the sale of their current property. And for a long time, if you put that kind of condition down on on an offer to purchase, the seller wouldn't accept it. And now we're seeing, well, because Fred and I have actually arranged the financing for two or three clients now that actually have made offers conditional on the sale of the current property. So there is a shift in the market right now.
100%. And we're seeing, again, it really depends on the asset because I've seen this past week, I saw one property get 18 offers, another property get 21 offers, another property get two offers, and then some properties get no offers, right? So it is a bit of a mixed bag out there. But when the stars line up and we find a property that works for you that we can make happen and we can make it conditional on a sale, fantastic. It's an exciting time when we can do that. And the reality is, most people need to sell their property in order to be able to afford their next move, especially when they're upsizing. So it's a very common practice. And if the person who's doing this has a high quality asset, a condo or single family home in a nice neighborhood that's well set up, it kind of comes down to how you position it as well. And that's part of our strategy. When we know we're going into this situation, we'll tell the buyers who are also going to be sellers, hey, let's get the photos done. Let's do the video. Let's do all the paperwork. Let's have all of our documents ready to go. So that when we go submit our offer that is conditional to sell, we can say, hey, once you accept our offer, we can put our property live on Monday and get the ball rolling right away. We're not wasting any time. We're ready to go. We're not lollygagging. We know what we want. We know what we can get for our home. And we're not trying to waste your time. We just need to be able to sell our home in order to make this happen. And I'll ask for, let's say, 60 days to sell our home because we're confident that we're going to make this happen and get the ball rolling right away.
If you're choosing to purchase a multiplex, maybe that's your next investment, and you don't want to manage the day to day stuff. You want someone else to take care of it so you can just collect that passive income. Give the Plex Doctor a call at 514-709-6397. You can also visit their website at plexdr.com. Still to come, if you're thinking about making some home improvements but want to make sure you're increasing the value of your house, LJ has some suggestions for you after we check traffic at the CJD 800 Traffic Center. This is Under One Roof MTL. I'm Robin. That's Martin. That is LJ. Renovations that provide the biggest return on investment. We always want a return on our investment when we make some upgrades to our home, especially if we're planning on selling them. But I think some people think that if they do certain things, they're going to get all of that money back. And that is not always the case, right, LJ?
That is almost never the case, is the reality. Unless you're a contractor and you've gotten a great deal on this property and you're already up in an equity position to start, that is not what you're looking for. And that's why I always tell people who are looking to do renovations, let's do the renovations when you buy the home. If you can afford to do them when you first move in or early on into your ownership career, you're going to A, get to amortize them, and B, you're going to get to enjoy them. So you're going to get to appreciate the new kitchen, new bathroom, the heated floors, the warm, cozy fireplace, all of these things, which are all wonderful to enjoy. But if we were to go on a straight investment versus return, you'd be lucky to get, generally speaking, somewhere between 40 to 70% of that investment returned to you, depending on what it is. So that's where certain things are going to pay back a lot better. But again, you want to do this for yourself, not for the sake of selling, unless you're a professional flipper and you're in that business.
That was going to be my question because, when you're renovating, should you be renovating for you and your family? Or if you're planning to sell in the next 3 to 5 years, should you be renovating so that it makes your house very marketable when you do put it on the market?
I would say that more times than not, what's important for your family will be important for most other families as well. Now, there's obviously exceptions to the rule. There's certain cases where you might need 3 bedrooms in the basement, which is completely uncommon. You'll get rid of the family room, which is what most people are going to look for. And that's where I always say, well, let's do kind of a makeshift build out where we're going to have either a sliding wall, where we're going to have something that is maybe not breaking into the floors, so we can easily remove that wall after the fact. So if your family needs the space or needs certain things done in order to make it more livable and enjoyable for you, and you're going to be there for 3 to 5 years, I still think that's a pretty good timeline where demolishing or removing maybe some of the walls that you've added is only going to cost $3,000, maybe $4,000. It's not nothing, but over 3 to 5 years to be able to have lived in the space in a way that was really functional for you, I think that investment makes sense. Now, if you tell me that you like everything to be absolutely black and you have this very eclectic style, then I really hope you're planning on being in this property for a while, so you can amortize those expenses because you're going to want to bring that home back to more neutral colors. You're going to want to potentially change some backsplashes or some of the finishings that you've done. But you go into this knowing that you're doing it for yourself. You're not doing it for the next person. So it is a case by case, but ultimately, I think there's usually a pretty good middle point where you can do things that are great for you and that'll be really appreciated by the general market as well when the time comes.
Although black finishes are becoming more and more popular. I keep seeing like matte black faucets and matte black door handles and window frames, and so black is in, LJ. Everybody likes it right now.
Black is in for accents. We see a lot of accents black, even some kitchens as well. But I'm talking about I've gone into some properties where they've painted all the walls black. And it is like kind of mid-century gothic feel, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, this is very specific. Okay, cool. She's like, yeah, it really spoke to us at the time. We really loved living here, so we're looking for somebody who can enjoy this as well. And now you've shrunk your target market from, let's say, I don't know, 1 million people to 10,000 people. So it's really trying to figure that out.
And there's a guy named Dracula living in a coffin in your closet too.
It's hard to cover up dark colors, I will say. Like if you've painted rooms light yellow, light pink, it's a little bit easier to cover those up with a neutral color. But if your walls are black, or I had a roommate in one of my apartments, she had painted the walls like a dark, dark red. Um, that's hard to cover up. That takes a couple coats of primer and a couple coats of paint before you can get that really truly covered up. So, yeah, you're gonna need to invest some time in that. I think when people think of renos though, they really think of kitchens and bathrooms. I know those were a priority for us when we were house shopping. I love to cook, so I wanted a kitchen that I could use that was functional, and I wanted a nice clean, updated, modern bathroom. That was very important to me. Is it worth it to make big upgrades to your kitchen and bathroom? Will that really improve the value of your house?
Those are definitely the two places where we're going to get some of the best bang for your buck. That's where people are always. eh, Let me rephrase that. That's some of the places that are really going to move the needle. Not necessarily the most bang for your buck, but that's where you're going to get people who are on the fence to say, yes, I want this home. This home is beautiful. I can see myself living in here. Now, I believe last time I checked, you're going to get about 70% of that expense back. Again, depending if you do it yourself, depending if you hire out a team, depending on how you do it. But there's certain things that you can do to a kitchen that aren't going to cost you $35,000 that'll really get you a huge return. We can change handles. We can change the doors on your cabinetry. We can change the countertops to be a quartz countertop, possibly. We can change the backsplash. We can change the sink. The faucets, there's a lot of things that you can do to a kitchen without ripping up all the cabinetry and redoing it entirely that'll make it look a lot more modern and show super well without having invested the price of a brand new kitchen in there where you're going to get a huge return. Same thing for the bathroom. It might be that the tiles in the shower area, they're a bit older, but they're white, they look fine. But what we're going to do is we're going to change um, maybe the bath, or we're going to add a glass sliding door, or we're going to add something that really modernizes it on that front, change the vanity, paint it so we've got like a nice feeling into it, nice warm environment in the bathroom. So again, it really depends on what you have to work with, obviously, but there's these upgrades that we can do, and that's usually where you're going to get the best bang for your buck, where you do a bit of a refresh to make it look a lot more modern without really having gutted it entirely.
So LJ, here's a question for you. So you're an agent. You're showing a couple a house. What's your strategy to show a house? Do you start with the low points? Do you start with the high points? Like, how do you how do you root out a house that you're trying to sell, or you're trying to demonstrate the high points or the good bones of a house? Like, where do you take them first?
So I will always start, if we're looking kind of the home. I'll start with the ground floor, then I always like to go up to the second floor if we have a second floor, and then I'll finish in the basement. And through the walkthrough, I am painting a very neutral picture of everything I see. I point out the great points of the home, I point out the terrible points of the home, and I make sure to bring to light the things that I know have been problematic for myself or for other clients, or things that people have felt in the past that they might be overlooking because they see a really pretty kitchen, for example, but they're not seeing that the floors are really messed up in this area, or that there seems to have been water damage on this corner, or that the patio door needs to be replaced, or that the windows are leaking, or all sorts of other things that I'm noticing along the way because of the experience. So I don't go in as a salesman. I go in as a consultant to say, objectively, these are all the good points I see in this home. These are all the terrible points I see in this home. How do you feel about the good and the bad here? And what can you live with versus what can't you live with? And what is going to be more important for you in our search as we continue to move forward on this together? And that's the approach I take when we're looking at any home.
If you're getting ready to sell your home and you're thinking about making some upgrades before you do, talk to LJ first to make sure that you're making the right upgrades. Give him a call at 514-500-4040. He'll help you figure it out. Coming up, can you still get approved for a mortgage after you've been turned down by the bank? Martin has the answer for you after the news. You're listening to Under One Roof MTL on CJD 800. I'm Robin Flynn. That's Martin Spalding, and that is LJ Aguinaga. Oh boy, can you still get approved for a mortgage after you've already been turned down by the bank? The bank told you no. Can you actually get improved elsewhere? Martin, what are people doing? Where are they going to get these mortgages after they've been turned down?
So lately, Fred and I have been getting a lot of calls from potential borrowers who tell us, my bank said no. And many assume that means end of the road, no mortgage, no options. But that's not actually true. A bank saying no doesn't automatically mean you don't qualify. It often means you don't fit that lender's box, that lender's criteria. And so most declines come down to the rules, not recklessness. So a lot of mortgages get turned down because of the mortgage stress test, how income is documented, the debt ratios, or if the property itself doesn't fit the bank's criteria, its location. Like we have a client right now that asks us, can we get them financing for a home that was once used to grow cannabis? So I can tell you that puts up a lot of red flags. And on this particular listing, the cannabis has not been grown in this home since 2001. That's 25 years ago, but it's still on the listing. So even solid borrowers can hit a wall if they don't line up perfectly with the bank's underwriting model. So if we go to the stress test is not, is it stressful to get a mortgage? Is it stressful working with LJ? Is it stressful working with Fred Martin? No, the stress test is uh, um, um, put on federally regulated lenders. So basically the big banks. So borrowers must qualify at the higher of their contracted rate plus 2% or the minimum qualifying rate, which is 5.25%. So even if the real payment today is affordable, the bank qualifies you at a much higher hypothetical rate to make sure you can handle any future rate increases. It's one of the biggest reasons that people get declined, even though they manage their finances properly. So if the bank says no, then what? So if you're with an A lender, a conventional lender, and they say no, where do you go next? Well, there are three options. So if your bank says no, doesn't mean that the bank across the street, because usually, banks are clustered, right? There are four banks on the four corners. So you can do all four if you want. But you can't just keep applying randomly. So you can take your mortgage to another prime lender with slightly different underwriting policies. So if you strike out there, then there are what's called B or alternative lenders. And the last resort is to take it to a private lender. And that should only be done if you've got a short term strategy and you've got an exit strategy. So today, what we're seeing is the real action is in the middle. The B lenders and alternative lenders, because they're built for files that don't quite fit the traditional bank box. So when we compare an A lender to a B lender, banks are very structured. They focus in on debt service ratios. You've heard us talk about this. How much of your income goes to housing and total debt, better known as GDS and TDS. They want clear income proof. So they want T4s, pay stubs, letters of employment, notice of assessments. They want a strong credit history. And as mentioned, also, they want to know, is the property marketable? So, not, in other words, God forbid they have to foreclose on you. Can they sell your property in a timely fashion to recoup the money that they've lent you? And finally, the strict application of the stress test. So what B lenders do, and B lenders don't go, I don't want to go to a B lender. It's going to cost me too much money. B lenders right now, the interest rate is about a point and a quarter, a point and a half higher than a traditional lender. So it's not the end of the world. So what B lenders do differently, B lenders are more flexible in regards to self-employed individuals or commission income. Because commission income, so last year you made 100,000, this year you're projected to make 80,000, and the year before that you make 50,000 because commission is variable income. So they treat that much differently. You got a new job, and you're still in your probation period. There's some insecurity with this job of yours. They'll look at it differently than a conventional lender. So something like a bruised credit score that's being rebuilt. And they offer higher debt ratios. So they offer more flexibility as long as there's a certain amount of strength in your equity and you've got a strong payment history. So instead of declining you outright, a B lender are willing to take the risk, but it comes with a price. So answering your question, Robin, yes, there is a price to going with a B lender. So higher interest rate. So as I mentioned, a point and a half higher. Then there are some fees. There are lender fees and sometimes there are broker fees as well. And again, this is usually short term. So 12 months to 24 months because it's not meant to be your forever mortgage. It's meant to be a bridge. So if you're in a situation where your conventional or a lender turns you down, then you can take it across the street, try another one, but don't try them all because they're going to notice that you've tried them all. And what you should do is that you should consider going to a B lender or you should consider calling Fred and we'll build your file so that we know where to send it. And we know that once it's built properly and all the calculations have been made, that the likelihood of you getting approved is much stronger than if you're just randomly applying all over town. So the big question, if I'm turned down, do I still have a chance? And the answer is yes. But first, don't panic. And as I mentioned, don't apply everywhere blindly. Instead, get the exact reason for the initial decline in writing. Find out why you were declined. That'll give us a lot of information when we're building your file. Run the numbers properly. So income, debts, taxes, heating, and other monthly liabilities. Ask yourself, is this a policy issue or is this a real risk issue? If it's policy, explore another prime lender. And if you strike out again, go to a B lender with a clear exit strategy. How are you going to go from a B lender back to an A? So the key takeaway in all this is a bank decline isn't always a verdict on you. It's often a verdict on the fit.
It makes sense. I remember when we were shopping around for our home, we were declined by the bank when we first applied. And then we worked with a mortgage broker, of course. Said you can take a year and, try to build your credit up a little bit, do some work, get some things done. We'll put a strategy in place. Or we can take you to a B lender. You'll pay a little bit more interest, but you'll be building equity in the house that you own. So we chose the latter, and I'm glad we did because we bought our house in August 2019, right before everything went cuckoo bananas. So that was some really good timing on our part.
I also want to take a second to Sorry, go ahead. I'm gonna take a second to try and remove some of the stigma associated to having to go to a B lender or even going private if it were to come to that because the deal makes sense. But going to a B lender is just having another alternative available to you that fits your needs. I've worked with several professionals, whether it's lawyers, doctors, very respectable, normal people who it just made more sense for the financing because they had just started a business venture. They had been declaring a lower personal revenue, keeping money in their business, and they were able to leverage that through a B lender to get into the home that they wanted today, knowing that the market was going to continue to grow on them and knowing that they'd be able to start living the life that they wanted, this next chapter of their lives in that home now by simply going to a B lender and not putting their life on pause until they had the 2 years of notice of assessment on their personal income that a traditional bank was looking for. So let's remove that stigma. It's not a bad thing. It's not a shady thing by any means. It's simply a different avenue to get where you're going due to different financial moves that you've made along the way.
Absolutely. We know actually some self-employed individuals that just stay with B lenders. They don't want to declare more income. And so in the traditional sense, they don't qualify for a traditional mortgage, but they'd rather declare less income, pay less income tax, and they pay a little bit more for their mortgage. But one and the other, you run the numbers and they're ahead of the game.
Interesting. To find out more about what your lending options are, you can get in touch with Fred and Martin by visiting their website, fredandmartin.com. You can book meetings with them directly on the website. Throw something on Martin's calendar. He'd love to talk to you.
Yeah, there's a lot on Martin's calendar these days.
Coming up, our property of the week, plus the answer to our trivia question of the week after we check traffic at the CJD 800 Traffic Center. This is Under One Roof MTL on CJD 800. I'm Robin. That's Martin. That is LJ. We're with you for another 10 minutes or so. LJ, where are we going this week for our property of the week?
Ooh, we're taking you to Vaudreuil today. If you are looking for a turnkey condo with space, style, and sunshine, check out 236 Rue Boileau in Vaudreuil, listed at just $375,000. This bright and inviting two-bedroom home features a smart open layout, front and back balconies, a large private backyard, a dedicated driveway, and even a storage shed. Plus, it faces west, bathing the space in natural light and epic sunset views. Located just minutes from parks, shops, transit, and Highway 40, it's perfect for couples or young families. Book your visit today with us at LJ Realties at 514 500 4040.
It's funny that we're talking about condos in Vaudreuil now, right? Talk about urban sprawl, right? You always thought went out there, you went out to Vaudreuil because you wanted a single family dwelling with a lot of land or a fermette or whatever it is. And now we're talking about condos in Vaudreuil.
It's crazy the amount of construction they've done around De La Gare, so the train station out there. They built up all sorts of condos, new rental projects, new condo projects, you name it. It is there. It is super dense area. They've got the Costco. They've got great restaurants. They've got great shops. They have the hospital that's incoming. It is a wonderful area to live if you're a young family or just if you work around there or just work in the West Island and don't need to come all the way downtown. It is super accessible.
I have a lot of friends who live in Vaudreuil. It's very, very popular with young families right now. Great spot to live. Awesome. So make sure you give LJ a call so you can go check out that space, 514 500 4040. Okay, let's get to our trivia question of the week because everybody is dying to know the answer, I'm sure. Brought to you by Felix and Norton Cookies. Our question this week was, what type of mortgage has an interest rate that can change over time? The answer is a variable rate mortgage. So congratulations to Kelly in Pierrefonds for correctly answering the question. You're getting some cookies from Felix and Norton. Yay!
And interesting enough, variable rates are now cheaper than fixed rates. So they had flipped for a while, then variable rates were more expensive than fixed, and now they're back under. So we're looking at about 20 basis points lower than most short term, like 3.4, 5 fixed rates right now. So variable rates, if you're not risk adverse, it could be the way to go. And our prediction for this year, we don't see a lot of movement from the Bank of Canada. So what we're seeing right now is pretty much what we're going to have for the rest of the year. So now people are saying, yeah, you know what? I was a fixed rate person. Variable rate to me sounds really appealing.
Historically, it has been the cheaper option, hasn't it?
Yeah. So if you, over the last 15, 20 years, you're on the winning side of the ledger if you had a variable rate. You can ask Fred. So Fred's always been a variable rate guy. And, up until COVID and out of COVID, he was on the winning side of the ledger. Took a bit of a hit after COVID, but now we're back into their normal order of things. So variable rates tend to be a little bit cheaper than fixed rates, but they come with a little bit more risk.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, that pretty much does it for us for this week. If you want to ask the guys a question and have your answer featured on the show, you'll be famous, guys. You can email us at underoneroofmtl@gmail.com. You can also get in touch with LJ, Fred, and Martin individually if you have a more, let's say, a question that's more about your individual situation and less of interest to the general population. LJ, where do people go to reach you?
Check out our website, ljrealties.com, or on all socials with the handle LJ Aguinaga. That's LJAGUINAGA, or LJ Realties with an IES at the end. You can also call or text me at 514 500 4040. And if you are looking to free up some of your time, contact my property management company, Plex Doctor, to take over and give you back your time. You can find us at plexdr.com or at 514 709 6397.
And as a very happy tenant of a Plex Doctor managed property, it is wonderful to work with you guys. I know I've said it before, but man, I love that app. That app is so cool. So it
Thank you
makes
so
things so
much.
much easier. Yeah, definitely. Fred, Martin, where do people go to reach you? And Fred.
Martin. uh, it's clear that from this show, we love to talk shop. So there are no bad questions. Whether you're in the market today, tomorrow, in a year from now, reach out to us. The best way to do it is through the website. All our digits are there. Or you can book us directly through the website. It's fredmartin.com, fredmartin.com. And because Fred is traveling right now, we'll do one more time for him, fredandmartin.com.
Fred will be back, by the way. We haven't voted.
One day.
I think I'll.
One day.
He will be back. We're just holding down the fort without him until he gets
No,
from
but he's
abroad.
still available. He's just overseas right now. Fred's in Milan. He's at the Olympics, and so he's doing some work at the Olympics, and he's also trying to answer all his emails and trying to answer all his text messages and his phone calls. I'm getting batch emails sent to me, and I'm trying to address everything, and I'm holding down the fort in Montreal. but he's living an incredible experience by being over there.
I bet. I've been following the Olympics and it has been so much fun. All of a sudden, I don't know about you guys, but every 4 years I become an expert in like men's moguls, sports that I never ever watched. But all of a sudden, I'm
Two-man
obsessed.
luge.
That's an interesting sport. How do you determine you're good at that?
I don't know. How do you wake up one morning and go, you know what? I want to be on a luge team. I want to be on a two-man luge.
Yep. Yep. Interesting. Very interesting life choices were made there. If you missed anything, you can listen to this show in its entirety on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. If you do listen to the podcast, make sure to rate and leave a review. We love hearing from you guys and hearing what you think about the podcast. For LJ, Fred, and Martin, I'm Robin. Have a wonderful day.